Every morning, Daniel sat at the same table in the small cafe on Maple Street. He liked the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of soft music, and the warmth of the sun through the window. The cafe was quiet, a perfect place to start the day. Every morning, at the same time, he saw her. The woman with the book. She always sat by the window, a cup of tea in front of her. Her dark hair fell over her shoulders as she read. Sometimes she smiled at something in the book. Sometimes she looked out the window, lost in thought. Daniel wanted to talk to her. He wanted to know what she was reading. He wanted to hear her voice. But he was afraid. What if she didn't want to talk? What if she thought he was strange? So, every day, he only watched. And every day, he said nothing. The cafe owner, Maria, noticed. She was an older woman with kind eyes and a knowing smile. "You should talk to her," she said one morning, placing his coffee on the table. "She might be waiting for you." Daniel shook his head. "She doesn't even know I exist." Maria laughed. "Oh, she knows." One day, something changed. When Daniel sat at his table, he saw a small piece of paper. A note. His heart raced as he picked it up. "If you also notice me, meet me here tomorrow." His hands shook. He looked around, but the woman was gone. Was this real? Could it be for him? That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought about all the things he wanted to say. He imagined sitting with her, talking, laughing. But what if it was a mistake? What if she left the note for someone else? The next morning, Daniel arrived early. He felt nervous. His hands were cold. He waited. The cafe filled with the usual people. The man with the newspaper, the student with her laptop, the old couple sharing breakfast. But Daniel only watched the door. Then, she walked in. She looked around, then smiled when she saw him. She walked to his table. "May I sit?" Daniel nodded. Yes, of course. Her name was Sophie. She had noticed him for a long time. She waited for him to say something, but he never did. So she left the note. They talked for hours. About books, about music, about dreams. She loved poetry. He loved history. They laughed at small things. The morning passed too quickly. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, they met at the cafe. The other customers noticed. Maria smiled when she served them. The student with the laptop watched them with interest. Even the old couple seemed pleased. One rainy morning, Daniel arrived at the cafe, but Sophie was not there. He waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. He felt something strange, worry. Had something happened? Had she changed her mind? Just as he was about to leave, she arrived, breathless, her hair wet from the rain. "I'm sorry. My bus was late." Daniel laughed, relieved. "I thought you disappeared." She smiled. "I wouldn't disappear." Time passed. Their meetings became more than routine. They became important. Daniel no longer felt nervous. He felt happy. Sophie was no longer just the woman with the book. She was his friend. Maybe something more. One morning, Sophie placed a book on the table. "This is my favorite. I want you to read it." Daniel took it carefully. "I will. And then we can talk about it." She smiled. "That's why I gave it to you." That weekend, the rain poured outside Daniel's small apartment. He sat by the window, a cup of coffee in hand, and opened the book. It was a novel about love and missed chances, about two people afraid to speak their feelings until it was almost too late. The words pulled him in. He saw himself in the main character, the hesitation, the longing, the fear of saying too much. As he read, he felt his heart tighten. The story was beautiful, but it was also painful. He thought of Sophie. Had she given him this book for a reason? Did she feel the same way he did? The next morning, he rushed to the cafe. Sophie was already there, waiting, her eyes filled with questions. "Did you like it?" she asked. Daniel took a deep breath. "I did. And I understand why you gave it to me." She smiled, a little nervous. And, he said, reaching for her hand, "I don't want to wait until it's too late." Sophie's fingers curled around his. "Me neither." They kissed, for a long time. A small step. A small note. A simple book. And everything changed. Because sometimes, all it takes is a little courage. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe.